And welcome back to another episode of the Ocho here at the Voice of College Football. And yes, folks, it is Ohio State week. That's right. We're going through all 18 of the 2024 Big Ten teams. And we've already gone through Illinois, we've gone through Nebraska, and now we're going to be doing Ohio State. My name's John Diadabo, and I'm going to be your host for the next couple hours. You can definitely follow me at John Diadamo on Twitter/X. And here's the one request I'm going to ask everybody do. Please, if you, at bare minimum, just hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds, it's free, and it helps support the content that we're doing here. You can subscribe to the Voice of College Football and hit the bell to get all the notifications of when we go live, when Mark Rogers goes live, and all of that good stuff. And then, of course, if you can please share this link with everybody you know. Just take the YouTube link, take it out to your social media, take it out to friends, Discord chat, whatever the case may be. Send it out to everybody, because the more people that get it, the more people are going to come in here and talk about Ohio State and Big Ten football for this episode. So we can do that. That would be great. And then if you could send us a super chat to make sure that your comment or question gets read on screen, also really awesome. And let's not waste any more time. We've got a special guest, JR. Many of you know him from the Big Ten Huddle, and here he is on our screen. So we got Wolverine and Buckeye about to chop it up here. JR, welcome to the Ocho.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we'll do our best to remain tame here and not argue too much. Right? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm thankful to be here. I appreciate you having me on. I had you on my show, so me on your show. It works.
There you go. Yeah, and we try to do big J journalism here at Voice of College Football. So Mason Blue hat coming off, journalism hat, or quote unquote, coming on, and
Yes.
and we're excited because there are a lot of topics I'm genuinely interested in, and the kind of the first, JR. Obviously, you've been doing your shows and everything, and you've been a Buckeye. Obviously, you watched 2023, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because I have never heard an 11-1 coach, or at least I haven't heard it in a very long time, that an 11-1 coach is actually on the hot seat for 2024. And I believe we did this. We did the rankings and the hot seat and everything, and
Yep.
like Ryan Day, all three of us had him on the hot seat for 2024. So like, walk me through that. Some of the things that you learned from the 2023 season.
Yeah. Well, we learned this season that Ryan Day needs an offensive coordinator who is experienced and able to help him out because he is the head coach, but it's also difficult to be the head coach and the offensive coordinator and game planning and personnel. I mean, it's very difficult to do everything for him, and so obviously he needs somebody else in that room. Some Ohio State fans were skeptical of Brian Hartline as the offensive coordinator. Everybody knows that he can develop wide receivers and he can recruit very well, those kinds of things. And I still believe he has a future as an offensive coordinator. He just never done it before. And so it was a new
Mm,
role for him. And for Ryan Day to do as much as he was doing, that's when you saw the struggles like the Missouri game. Now, I would say that, there were also struggles there, like Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't playing. And,
yeah,
he
a
was, he,
minor character who is a generational running back or a wide receiver talent. Just
exactly.
not on the board that day. So
Exactly. And a backup quarterback who I was excited about, but even he got hurt early, which then sent the third string in, who I was also excited about. But turns out, your third stringer is not always as prepared when they're a true freshman as maybe some other third stringers are. Like Cardell Jones. So we've had the experience of the third stringer who did really well and the third stringer who did not so well. So, you
right,
know, it is what it is. But no, the positives I took away from it was just the defensive improvement throughout the year. We really won
absolutely,
by defense, a lot of times. It's very, pre 2020 esque before we had Ryan Day. For when Ryan Day got there, we won by offense and won in spite of the defense. And then this year we had ourselves winning in spite of the offense at times. And Jim Knowles calling a very conservative defense, but it worked a lot of the time. And so that was a positive that I think we'll take with us, especially with the amount of guys coming back this next year, thinking, okay, maybe the defense won't be lights out. I hope it is. Don't get me wrong, but we know this defense will at least still be very, very good and still be something that the team can lean on going forward.
Yeah, I think history has shown that Jim Knowles needs a year or two to install his system and to get it where he needs it to be. Last year, 2022, obviously, it was his first year, and still some holes he needed to plug, still some things he needed to address. And now in 2023, like you said, the defense carried the team for large portions of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That is something we haven't heard of from Ohio State since the Urban days.
Right.
That the defense is carrying the team. But that's what happened. So do you think that that was really because you obviously had I've said before, generational, maybe the best wide receiver I've seen the last 3 to 5 years in college football. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is that guy, right?
Right.
Do you think that he was kind of papering over, maybe him and CJ Stroud were papering over some issues with how good they were in 2022. That then, like when CJ Stroud was gone, and then MHJ gets taken off the board, right? Like that kind of exposes what's there.
Right. Yeah, I think I have a theory in football that sometimes when you know you're the best player on the team and you know that everything relies upon you, some guys rise to the occasion, some guys don't. And Marvin Harrison Jr. knew that the offense pretty much was completely on him this year. Travion Henderson did very well late when he came back from his injury as well, but he knew that if the passing game was going to be successful, he was going to have to get open and do those things. And I think it remained true for the defense as well, that the defense recognized, hey, this defense is much better this year. So if we're going to win games, the defense is going to have to be lights out and really play well. And so kind of when the pressure is on, some guys rise to the occasion, some guys sink, and fortunately for Ohio State, the best players on the team were able to rise to the occasion more often than not this year.
Absolutely. For those of you just joining us, welcome. It's Ohio State week here at the Ocho, and we've got JR from the Big Ten Huddle here. We do want to remind everybody to hit the Amazon link. When you're doing your shopping already on Amazon, you might as well hit the Voice of College Football link, and then Mark Rogers gets a couple of bucks. And then we continue to do all of the stuff that we can do and bring on guests and all of that content that you love to see from Voice of College Football. So Ohio State, we do this with everybody who comes on, most concerned about, most excited about. And so, what are you, JR, as somebody who studies the Buckeyes, most concerned about for 2024?
Well, I'm most concerned about the offensive line, and that was something I was concerned about last year, and it's something that remains a concern this year. Not because we lose a ton of guys, we lose a right guard who I felt like did a very good job. Unfortunately, when he moved to center in the bowl game, that contributed to some of the issues we saw there. But replacing the guys on the right side of the offensive line. The guy who played right tackle this last year, Josh Fryer, they believe he is more of a guard rather than a tackle. And so he's expressed that to the staff that he would rather move into guard because he believes that is where he has a future at the next level. Now, obviously, he's a team player. He will still play tackle if they want him to. But that specifically that right side of the line, are they going to be able to pass protect, run block, do those things? I think the left side of the line should be okay. We have a number of guys, all those guys coming back, and then the center is from Alabama, or we could bring back the center who started last year. So good situation there. It'll just really depend on that right side of the offensive line and how they connect the pieces there.
Yeah. So you mentioned the center from Alabama, Seth McLaughlin, and I'm gonna ask this in the best way I can. Is he going to be center for you guys in 2024, or are you going to move him to guard? Because there's been a lot of rumors on both sides of that.
Yeah, I read an interview that he did with Bill Kurlick from 24/7, and he just basically said he was recruited to come in as the center. So he said if they want to move him to guard, he's more than fine with that. He just wants to play and contribute for the team. So again, that unselfish attitude to do whatever the team needs. But they brought him in to be the center from everything I've read and everything I've been told. I know some people are concerned about the snapping issues, and don't get me wrong. I saw his game against Georgia and the game against Michigan, and a good amount of the games last year as well. So I have a concern
Sure.
there as well. But I have friends who have been offensive linemen. I have friends who have been centers. I've listened to a number of centers with their interviews. A lot of those people say that snapping the ball is much more mental rather than a skill or a trait. Long snappers, that's a different story. But somebody snapping in shotgun and stuff like that. So if they can get his mentality right, he can be the snapper that he was before last year when they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game and those things. Because his snapping wasn't really an issue until late into this year, and so they're hoping they can correct that.
Yeah, and there might be an element of, hey, you're playing against this guy is playing against maybe one of the best defenses in the last 5 to 6 years, probably up there with Georgia's defenses and others. Like I think that it's still not mentioned enough that Michigan's defense in 2023 was a notch above what you come to expect from Michigan. So I don't I mean I can't completely put that on Michigan's defense. I think there's a little bit of jitters and things like that. But the Rod Farva, who's always supporting us, and we appreciate that. Watch the film. He played great against Georgia in the SEC championship game. So maybe it was just a one-off
Hmm.
issue.
Yeah. Possibly. I saw a few bad snaps in that game that kind of compounded into the Michigan game, but obviously, Rod's right there. It wasn't nearly at the level of what it was in the Michigan game, and you know what? I'd be pretty scared too if I had Kenneth Grant and Chris Jenkins and Mason Graham lining up right in front of me too. So,
Yeah, that DL is filthy. Um, if he has issues at center, then Hinsman will get moved back to center, and I see him as McLaughlin as a guard. I really do. I just, and I don't think it's just because of the center issues. I think just based on the fact that Hinsman has had snaps at center. He's had experience at center. And with the snapping issues, you want somebody who can snap the ball, kind of automatic, and that you don't have
right.
to worry about it. I think McLaughlin would be a great guard. So maybe you put him at right guard. Who knows? But yeah, that's definitely something to look into. We do have a super chat. Thank you, Moose. If we're gonna get, hey, listen, it's Ohio State week. If Michigan fans want to come on and to troll a little bit and give money, then we love that. So Moose, thank you for the $2. Michigan fans, you like my new hat? I still need to get my merch for the national championship. It's been a little weird ordering and stuff. So thank you, Moose, for that. We appreciate that. Okay. So we've talked about most concerned. And now, how about all of the things that we've been hearing in terms of being excited from the transfer portal, NIL, and Will Howard? Walk me through some of the things the last month or so that Ryan Day and the team have been doing to really get the team ready for 24.
Yeah, I mean they brought nearly everybody back. There was one defensive tackle, Mike Hall, who he's going to be moving on. Rumor is that I mean, not a rumor, he does have a kid, but the rumor is that since he has that kid, he wants to go on and go off to the NFL. People are projecting him to be possibly a second, third round pick, and so more power to him. The guy wants to go provide for his family. I can't, I can't knock him for that. And then obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., top 5 pick, most likely, maybe even top 3. We'll see who wants who. It kind of just comes down to that there. So I can't fault them there, but I am excited for the guys coming back, most of all, just because we've seen those guys and they want to come back and kind of, get what they feel like they've been there to get, which is a win against Michigan, to beat, to win the Big Ten national championship, or to win the Big Ten championship, and then also to win the national championship. So we'll see if they can get that done. I'm excited about them. But then Will Howard too. I tell you, Will Howard is an interesting one because I didn't know much about him. I knew a little bit about him going into the year, and I knew that Adrian Martinez the year before was the starter, and then Will Howard kind
Yeah.
of took over when he got injured, and then Will Howard kind of kept the job, and then I thought, oh well, Will Howard's gonna be the starter again this year, and everything will be fine, and then he had the job, and then this new freshman Avery Johnson, I think is his name, he comes in, and then they start giving him some starts and him some playing time, and um, I don't know. Maybe this is my biased brain. I don't know if I can take the Ohio State hat off here like you can, John, but or your Michigan hat. But I never saw anything in any of the Kansas State games that led me to believe Will Howard deserved being benched. It always seemed like it was kind of like they just wanted to get Avery Johnson out there because I believe he's either the highest rated quarterback they've ever signed or the highest rated recruit they ever signed. And so who knows? The fans could have been clamoring for it. I talked to a few Kansas State fans on Twitter and just asked them, like, what are your thoughts on the situation? And none of them had anything bad to say about Will Howard. They just said, look, he's a good player, but he never had the hype around him. His coaching staff never really planned for him to be the guy. And so when you don't have a plan to be the guy, you kind of start some games, don't start some games, and I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely a weird situation that he's coming from. Hopefully, better here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Martinez, with the experience, Martinez was what, his seventh or eighth year at that point. So the fact that Will Howard, was able to keep that job, and then obviously, continuing on into this year, that speaks volumes, I think. And now, I guess here's the thing: you've got Will Howard, but then you also have a guy named Devin Brown who says he's going to compete. He's staying. He's competing. We didn't see him much because he was injured, obviously, in the Missouri game. I wanted to see him more. Um, does Devin Brown, or even like an Aaron Nolan, do they have a chance to take over as QB1 by the end of the year, or is it Will Howard's job at this point?
Based on what's going on with Ryan Day this season, I find it very hard to believe that he would entrust the season to a freshman quarterback in this situation. I find it hard to believe he'd even entrust it to Lincoln Keenholz this year.
Right.
We'll see with Devin Brown. There was a lot of rumblings that he should have been the starter last year, and I think there was some truth to that. There's a lot of people who still believe in him now, which I think he has a really good fire, and he's obviously very competitive, and I want him to stick around and push Will Howard for the job because I think competition breeds excellence and makes everybody better. So we'll see. At the end of the day, last year I wanted McCord to be the guy because he came in, he did his time, and then at the end of the day, I just thought to myself, why do I care? Like, just put the best guy in there, let him play, and whatever happens, happens. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking this year. If Will Howard's the best guy, put him in. If Devin Brown's the best guy, put him in. If Aaron Nolan's the best guy, put him in. Who cares? Whoever the best quarterback is, I do think it'll probably be Will Howard, but whoever it is, just put him in.
Absolutely. And I think that's the right mentality. And obviously, Michigan, among others, are going to have the same situation. A little different because you got Alex Orji, you've got some others that are maybe coming up, Denegal or Jaden Davis. So they both groups have an emerging freshman. Both groups have a more tenured quarterback. The difference, I think, is if Jack Tuttle gets another year of eligibility, then I think he's the Will Howard because he was the transfer, from Indiana. So, there's actually a lot of similarities, I think, with the quarterback situation. But I think Will Howard kind of has a little bit more of a foothold on QB1. I think he's going to get it, if I had to guess right now, that he'll be playing that first game of the season. But you never know.
If nothing else, for the experience, right? I mean, experience is invaluable.
Yep. And somebody who may be helping with the evaluation of quarterbacks, we're going to get to in a second. But first, we do have new merch, as we know, at the Voice of College Football merch store. So check out our merch store. Get yourself some Voice of College Football socks or coffee mugs or some of the other amazing products that we have. And, of course, Jackson Johnson. is always here, giving his plugs for us. If you're looking for something for your special sweetheart this Valentine's Day, check out some Voice of College Football merchandise. There you go. So Jackson is letting you know. So yeah, so this is, I'm obviously very interested in your thoughts on the offensive coordinator. We obviously we heard it was Bill O'Brien, but now we're hearing that Bill O'Brien is the favorite to become the Boston College head coach. So let's start there. You've been following the process a little bit about where he is in the interviewing.
Yeah, so Pete Thamel tweeted out today that there will be a second round of interviews tomorrow. From everything that I've been hearing and everything that I've been reading from kind of the Boston College side, it sounds like Bill O'Brien is the top guy, the guy that they want. And some other guys mixed in there, like an Al Washington, a possible Paul Christ, or somebody like that. But from what I was told, and again, this is rumors, so we'll take this with a grain of salt. But from what I was told, that if Bill O'Brien is offered the job, he has told Ohio State that he will indeed take the job. One of the reasons why, and we can turn this into all kinds of, Boston College is a better job, whatever. But it sounds like one of the reasons why is because Bill O'Brien, he does have a son who has just a terrible disease, and the doctor specialist who treats him for that is up in Boston. And so I don't like to delve into that rumor too much. That's a man's family, so I try not to talk about it too much. I don't think I'd want people talking about my family
Yep.
as a rumor for a head coaching job, but it does make more sense
Makes
why,
sense.
he would want to, he moved back to New England after having that Alabama job and tried to salvage things there. Obviously, it didn't work out, and then he takes a job at Ohio State. Then the Boston College job opens up, and it's just kind of like, perfect situation, and I think it would be a good situation for Boston College too. So it's one of those things where it's like, it would stink, and I'm sure there would be all kinds of rivalry banter with it, just like there is everything else. But if a man has to do that for his family, man has to do it, and we'll find somebody else.
Yeah, and every Buckeye I've talked to is very very supportive if he decides to do this. The Rod, says he told Ohio State he's taking the job if offered. However, he might be asking for a bit too much for what Boston College can afford, along with certain details in his contract. So maybe there's a sticking point as far as the contract there, and they might go with Al Washington. So that's obviously something to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Al Washington is the other piece there that he would be kind of the backup plan from what I'm hearing if they can't get the money right with Bill O'Brien, because that's kind of the thing right
Yeah.
now. Not only his money, but also money for coordinators and position coaches and things like that.
Yep. But let's say Bill O'Brien does decide to take the job. I have a theory. So I'm calling this the nightmare scenario for Michigan fans and the nightmare scenario for anybody who's rooting against Ohio State. So Chip Kelly was Ryan Day's offensive coordinator at New Hampshire. Ryan Day was the quarterback for Chip Kelly. And so they have experience going all the way back to the University of New Hampshire. They also spent a year together at the Eagles, where Ryan Day was the quarterback's coach, and even I think you said play caller at times for Chip Kelly at the Eagles. So they have some history. Could Chip Kelly be headed to Columbus?
That's the rumor right now. That's what a lot of people think. Chip Kelly, obviously, a lot of smoke around him wanting to be out at UCLA. He's not happy with the situation. There was the reports made toward the end of the season that he would be fired at the end of the season. So, obviously, it does not sound like a good situation there. Some people might say, oh, that's kind of a drop-down move to go from head coach to coordinator at another school. It's possible, but if you're not happy someplace, you're not happy someplace, and trying to get out. So this is something that I was just on a podcast last night talking with other Ohio State fans, and they were all for it. They were saying Chip Kelly all the way. This would be perfect. And I got to say, I don't really like it all that much. And I'll do my best here to explain, because
Sure.
it is kind of complicated if you're not in touch with what's going on. But one of the reasons why they brought Bill O'Brien in was because of his previous head coaching experience. Again, this is rumors, but was because of his previous head coaching experience and him being able to lead a room. And so that's, Ohio State has a very young room with some of their assistant coaches. Brian Hartline is still young. Keenan Bailey is young. Justin Fry, he's not necessarily young, but he is still, not an old position coach by any means. But they're kind of still some young guys, and Ryan Day wants somebody who can come in there and kind of lead the room in that way. And also, he wants somebody who can kind of talk back to him and give him information, because that's kind of what Kevin Wilson did. Is, if Ohio State,
Right.
or if Ryan Day was saying, "Oh, I don't think we should go for it here," Kevin Wilson could say, "No, dude, get ready and go for it here. This is where we need to go for it on fourth down. Trust your guys and do it." And that's the thought with Bill O'Brien being able to do that, his kind of aggressive, fiery personality. I don't know if it works exactly with Chip Kelly. I don't know if anybody has ever been in this situation before, but if you've ever been like a boss to your mentor, that doesn't typically work out very well. It's rather hard to tell somebody who has told you and given you information all of your life of what to do. It's kind of hard for you to then be their boss and kind of tell them what to do. So I don't know. It's kind of like a preference for me. Like I said, I don't think a whole lot of Ohio State fans feel this way, but I'd be much more happy with somebody like a Joe Moorhead or a Jason Candle, or Eric Bieniemy has been mentioned. I think that's kind of a big name out there that would probably be too much money or anything, but I'd be more happy with some of those guys to possibly come in and do that, just because you don't want to hire family. And it sounds like Chip Kelly and Ryan Day are so close, it'd be kind of like hiring family.
Yeah, I think the reason to me it's a nightmare scenario is because I think that one of the big reasons that the offense has been held back a bit is because Ryan Day has had multiple jobs, and Chip Kelly, I actually view Chip Kelly a lot higher than I do Bill O'Brien as a play caller. I think that the offenses aren't that different. They are a little different, but like obviously since they both were part of that tree, they both have the high octane offense and pass heavy offense with some run in there too. So I think if Chip Kelly is essentially head coach of the offense, and Knowles is head coach of the defense, and Ryan Day can be the CEO like Urban used to. That's a formula that has worked very well for them in the recent past. So that's kind of why it could be interesting.
I think that would work as well. Something like that, where you bring somebody in and they just kind of take it over and make those things happen. I think that was kind of the nice part about Bill O'Brien is he could come in and kind of take over, make that happen, and he was also a good recruiter. I mean, we saw what happened with Julian Sayin almost as soon as he got there. He was able to talk him into coming on over. It's not like Ohio State had a problem, recruiting quarterbacks before, but that also does make it so it can happen there. I'm not sure Chip Kelly is much of a recruiter, but again, between Ryan Day and Brian Hartline, maybe they can figure it out.
Yeah, they've got that. They've got that path, I think, kind of covered there. So before I let you go, I got to ask: you think Ohio State's going to take Michigan in 2024?
We'll see. I think it kind of depends on Michigan, as well as it does Ohio State, and just whatever happens with this offensive coordinator hire. If it is Chip Kelly, if Bill O'Brien does walk and go up to Boston College, and it is Chip Kelly, if things start looking good and the offense is in sync, and we see an offense kind of prior to what we saw last year, I'd be pretty confident in it. But at the end of the day, like I was telling somebody back, when was it, like even before the 2020 game, before it was canceled, I was telling people, man, I'm not going to count anything, because at the end of the day, this rivalry is crazy, and if somebody plays their best possible game, they can win on any single time, and so I'll never be confident going into one of these games.
Yeah, it's as they say, you throw the book out with rivalry week. No matter how good
Oh yeah.
you're doing and how good your opponent's doing, the game, anything goes. I mean, we remember Brady Hoke came within 1 point, 2 point conversion, and they weren't doing that well in 20. I think it was 2013. They weren't doing too hot that year, but they came
Yeah.
within 2 points. So anything could happen in the game, for sure. So,
Exactly.
JR, I know you've got to bounce, so I want to make sure that you get an opportunity to give us a final thought, and also where could people find you? Obviously, we appreciate you stopping by the Ocho.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Just excited for football to get back. I'm doing a countdown on my personal Twitter with every single win Ohio State has had since 2005. So it's been fun rewatching those games and making highlight videos and stuff. So if you're an Ohio State fan, go on over and follow me at JR_rankings. And then if you're just a Big Ten fan at all, head on over to the Big Ten Huddle on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all those places. Check us out there. We have a podcast where we do a lot of game recaps. We cover basketball and football. So right now it's basketball on Sundays and Wednesdays at 9 o'clock, and then Tuesday nights are our 9 o'clock is our live football show. We bring on all kinds of fans from all kinds of teams. Sometimes we talk about their teams. Sometimes we talk about other teams. Last episode we talked about Oregon, and we had Nebraska fans in there, and that was a very interesting conversation hearing Nebraska fans share their thoughts on Oregon because they were none too pleased with Oregon coming to the Big Ten, and so it's entertaining. You might not agree all the time, but that's not what the show's about. The show's about hearing from other teams, and might make you happy, might make you sad, might make you mad, but hey, that's the show.
Hey, look, and obviously I enjoyed being on your show, and obviously we appreciate you coming on. Mike G, a Wolverine, has said great job. So I mean,
Hey,
what
I
else
feel
can
like
you
I've
do?
done something well. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you.
All right, JR, we're gonna let you go and bring on the Voice College Football Community Panel. But thanks for stopping by, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me, John.
Absolutely. Sonny says entertaining show. So there you go.
Awesome.
All right, later.
See ya.
Okay, so thank you, Sonny, and everybody who's stopped by today. We are about to get on to our Voice of College Football Community Panel. But before we do just want to remind everybody that you can join our Patreon or YouTube membership for as low as $2.99. Join our be part of our Discord and talk college football all the time. And so let's bring on our panel for this week. So we're going to start off with we're calling him Double J. We've got Jackson Johnson in the house, host of the Jacksonian, and welcome back to the panel.
It's great to be back, John. I decided to change a little, do a little arrangement with my mini helmets. I put UCLA ahead of Maryland, but they're below Minnesota and Indiana right now with the way things are going. I don't like where the next few years are, at least right now, for UCLA, especially with this debacle with Chip Kelly. I mean, if you're talking about coaching troubles in February in college football, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's it could be rough. If I think this might be Chip Kelly's agent spreading the word that he might be open to offensive coordinator positions in the NFL and college. So we'll see there. Okay. Obviously with Ohio State week, we can't not have Sean Garner in the house, one of our resident reasonable Buckeyes here for the panel. So Sean, welcome back, and welcome to Ohio State week.
OH. Buckeyes.
No, but no, thank you for being on, and hopefully you enjoyed JR's perspective there. And we've got two more to bring on. We've got Will ND in the house, our honorary Big Ten member. Thanks for being back, Will.
What's up, Will?
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Thanks for having me on, guys. What's up, Sean? Happy to be here.
Great to have you. And then, of course, we have we got to bring on a Wolverine so people can say I'm stacking the panel. So we got Moose. We got Moose in the house. Hey, buddy.
But they had to bring Michigan in if it involves Ohio State. We can't have all this Ohio State.
You have a good Moose?
All right. Last but certainly not least, we've got Erica Goldberg in the house. We got Erica. Erica,
Hey, y'all.
welcome back.
What's going on?
Go Hawkeyes for you.
Go Hawks.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being on, and of course I have to go to Sean first, as the Buckeye, with the discussion here. Obviously JR said a lot of things about Ohio State and last year and this year. I'm curious about your thoughts on the kind of breaking-ish news on Bill O'Brien and potentially who may replace him if he decides to go to Boston College. What's kind of your take on that, and where do you see things headed?
Well, every era has to come to an end, right? I mean, the storied legacy of the Bill O'Brien era at offensive coordinator might be finished right now. Planning to donate some fund to build a statue for him. There's somewhere. I mean, in all honesty, I mean it's a bit frustrating. I mean, they made this effort to go help supplement the offense with a high level mind that Ryan Day trusts, and it was exciting news when he came in. I was positive about it. Not everyone was, but I mean, you can't fault him in any way if he decides to take this job. He's a Boston area guy. He's got family situations that may make this a better situation for him. So I mean, I hope that they do go out and hire somebody else to help supplement the play calling and help relieve Ryan of maybe some of his responsibilities that he's assumed himself.
Yeah, and that's why I'm actually drawing out the nightmare scenario. I think Chip Kelly taking over as head coach of the offense could be a big problem, because then we're basically emulating the Urban Meyer approach of 2014, Tom Herman kind of head coach of the offense, right? So that worries me, because that's a formula that's worked very well for Ohio State in the recent past.
Right. And I mean, Urban built his bones as an offensive play caller. Like, that's how he when he came up through was an assistant at Notre Dame and a head coach at Bowling Green in Utah right afterwards. He innovated and completely changed offensive football. I don't know if he ever called a single play at Ohio State. By the time he had gotten there, he had really shifted full time to an executive role. I think he realized that's what it takes to succeed at this level. We can't put. And Harbaugh, he was very involved in the offense for a long time, and they had more success. The more he relinquished some of those, managerial duties on. So I mean, it's a thing. It's very, very difficult to wear too many hats.
Yeah. And obviously Sharon Moore found this out when having to do head coach duties, offensive coordinator duties, and O-line duties. He has now decided in his press conference that he is not going to be the play caller because of his experience having to do all of those jobs. So I think that's just another data point there. Let's go to Jackson, and kind of your thoughts on where you're seeing Ohio State.
Hey, I think Moose having some audio issues. I thought I heard him trying to chime in here. Oh. Are you there, Moose?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I thought
Yeah. So let's go around the horn. So keep it, because obviously we've got 5 people on here. So we'll start with Jackson and we'll go around. But Jackson, what's kind of your take on the news of Bill O'Brien and what's going on here?
Well, I mean, for the situation that Boston College is in, I mean, your head coach leaving for the Packers DC job, that's got to tell you right there, something's coming and it's not good for Boston College. And Bill O'Brien, we remember when he took over as the Penn State head coach, they were in a cluster of a situation and the NCAA sanctions put him in a fate worse than hell. So what did he do? He got him some winning seasons. And, Bill O'Brien being hired possibly as the Nets head coach at Boston College, that would be tremendous right there. I mean, I don't think they're going to go back to Jeff Jagodinski era anytime soon. I mean, they're not going to do that, but I guess we'll wait and see. I mean, I think maybe he can get them a better than like a 6-7 win season. But I don't know. I wish him a lot of luck at Boston College. I mean, that's kind of a scary job.
Isn't that the type of job where if you go 8-4, I mean, they might like give you a statue or something? I mean, like I feel like there's 6.
You're the Nets coming to Jesus if you go 8-4 at Boston College.
This is a program though that relatively recently had quite a bit of success. I mean, through the 90s
O'Brien built them up pretty good.
Oh yeah, he had real good success under the O'Brien days. I mean, I think they had like 20 straight winning seasons at one point. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
John. If they go 7-5, they might give him a statue.
There you go. Will ND, what's your take here on Ohio State?
All right. I mean, I don't trust Barely Catholic to get the fund for Bill O'Brien. I mean, are they really going to be able to get the funds for him? Like, I don't know, like, do enough people care in Boston College about the program anymore? That's what I have to.
That's a good point, because this is not like the Doug Flutie days or the Matt Ryan days.
Yeah, or the what was the guy's quarterback when they beat the Irish that year?
What, Glenn Foley?
Yeah, this isn't the Glenn Foley. This isn't even the Glenn Foley days. My dad was at that game, by the way. That was a sad day. But yeah, like it'll be interesting. I mean, if Al goes there, that would suck for the Irish because I thought he's done like he hasn't. I would say he's like not a big step down from Mike Ellison as D-line coach, but if he goes there, I'm sure Marcus can get someone to replace him. It'll be interesting to see if they can get it together and get Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, absolutely. Moose, what have you been looking at? As obviously, we try to know thy enemy as much as we can. So, I don't know how much you've been following the Bill O'Brien stuff, but what's your take?
Not a lot, but I think him going to Boston College would be huge for that university, just because of how historically bad they've been in the last 30 years. So that would be huge for Boston College, but I think that if he goes to Boston College, what is he going to be able to do though? Does he have enough resources? Does he have enough money to be successful there? I don't know. That's the question. That's all.
It's interesting because Hafley, I think, was a pretty solid defensive coordinator for Ohio State, right? When he was DC.
One season, but that was
legit. Yeah. So sometimes being a coordinator doesn't necessarily translate over and vice versa, but at least we've seen Bill O'Brien, resurrect the Penn State program from, the dumpster that they were in. And you can say what you want about his Texans experience and everything else, but hey, he has run programs before, so you never know.
Usually I'd be shoot my mouth off about what an idiot general manager he was, but
No.
I'm not going to be doing that because of what his family's going through. So
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I could too. I'll keep it respectful though, just because of stuff that he's going through right now.
Look
Yeah,
at that.
but
No,
when
we love
when
that.
everybody's feeling better, I can go back to doing
Then
that.
you'll go off. All right, fair enough, Jackson. Okay, Erica. Erica, I'd love to hear from you on this.
Yeah, so as far as Bill O'Brien goes, I mean, I haven't been following it super closely or anything, and I wasn't aware of the family issues. And the money was a concern for me before I heard about the family issues. And now knowing about those, I'm thinking maybe, depending on how much of a pay cut we'd be talking about, maybe he'd be willing to do that if it means his family can be well taken care of. Because obviously family is important to everybody. And so I think that's a possibility. And then the other thing, I don't know, I wanted to say something about Chip Kelly as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my chats earlier. I was talking to somebody about, I think it was Mike G, about how Chip Kelly actually called up Kirk Ferentz and asked him if he wanted, saying he was interested in the OC job at Iowa. And the reason I heard about this is because an Iowa insider whose message board I subscribe to talked about it. So it's not me, just gut feeling type of deal. Like, I'm not the source,
Yeah.
It was coming from an Iowa insider. So apparently he actually called Kirk Ferentz and offered himself and was like, hey, you want, I know you need a new OC. You want to come, or I want to come to Iowa maybe. And the reason part of it is obviously because with him, the writing's on the wall a little bit with the UCLA situation. So I think he was looking for an early exit, maybe like to kind of save face a little bit before the inevitable happens. But the word on the street is they actually did meet up and have a discussion. And I think personally, and this part is my opinion, I think personally a big part of the reason that it didn't happen, I don't think it's about money, because Iowa has money. But I do think it was about the fact that Kirk is a stubborn person. And I think that the two personalities would have been kind of at odds, shall we say.
The philosophies of the teams too, the offensive
I
philosophy.
mean, you've got a coach that wants to run as many plays as possible, and go up tempo. As soon as you get a first down, just everyone sprint to the line of scrimmage, and we'll call the plays there. I mean, Kirk's was never gonna go for something like that.
Oh, I know, but what was interesting to me is he actually heard him out. He could have just been like, thanks, but no thanks, and not even talked to him.
Yeah.
But he actually, the word on the street is they actually did have a conversation, but there were actually a lot of conversations that apparently happened behind the scenes about the OC thing. But since we're not really talking about Iowa tonight, I'll not talk about it right now.
That's okay.
Erica,
we'll talk about any Big Ten topic.
Well,
Erica is.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA's in the Big Ten now too, so that's a Big Ten issue.
That's a Big Ten topic,
right? I mean, I couldn't see it working with Chip and Kirk being in the same building. I just can't see that. And like Sean said, the offensive philosophies are just simply too different. But I just think what could have been there, and like I have been for the past 3 years.
Time for the Kleiman era to start in Iowa City. Go get Chris Kleiman.
Well, I don't know when that's
going to happen. As an offensive coordinator?
No, as a head coach after 2024.
He's talking head coach. We've talked about it before, and I don't know. I don't see Kirk leaving quite that quickly. I think he's got another 2 or 3 years, but that's going to be it. Technically, his contract is till 2029, but I don't think he's going to make that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, contracts don't mean anything these days, especially in the world of college football and NFL. Right. But Chip Kelly, I just don't see him staying at UCLA beyond 2024. I mean, there's no beyond 2024 for him.
I'm surprised he's not gone already, if I'm being really honest.
Erica, honestly, I don't think it matters who you hire as offensive coordinator. I think the issue is Kirk Ferentz. I think until you get rid of him, I don't think anything is going to change, honestly.
Well, that's another conversation I was having with Mike G as well, is that, or with I think it was Rod Farva or whatever his screen name is. Yeah, the Rod Farva.
Rod
I
Farva.
was making the comment that I always do about Ohio State, that it just sounds to an outsider that it sounds nuts to fire an 11-win coach. But then I reflected a bit more, and I was like, well, I've said at various points in the last few years that Kirk should be gone, and we were a 10-win team this year. So maybe I'm just as nuts. Maybe, I don't know. Some Hawkeye fans would say I am, but
Well, I think whoever Iowa hires as OC, I think it's a prelude to most likely a coach regime change in the next year or two. Like Beth Getz obviously has a really difficult. She's in a really difficult position because Kirk Ferentz is basically second to Jesus in the state. So it's kind of like.
I wanted to say one thing before we moved on from the Chip Kelly topic.
Yeah, sure.
This Chip Kelly has long been known to not be a big fan of recruiting. Pre-NIL days. Not a big fan of recruiting. Not a big fan of fundraising. Not a big fan of the politics involved with being a head coach. And all of those things have been ratcheted up like 100 times in the past couple of years. All of those responsibilities.
If Chip can have a huge NIL fund and a bunch of assistant coaches that can recruit really well, he can be successful. But he needs a lot.
But also I think UCLA is not the kind of program to kind of like dig in like
if he
that.
was still at Oregon, I think he would be successful. But
I think Chip is going to end up going to the NFL. I don't see him staying at UCLA much longer. And I think, just like Sean said, this is kind of going off what he said. He's one of those coaches, kind of like Kirk, to be honest, if I'm being really honest, who doesn't love NIL, who doesn't like the politics, like Sean explained. And that's why I think Chip will eventually go to the NFL. I just don't see him. Already the writing's on the wall that he's not going to be there after this season if he makes it through the season.
I think he has very little interest in being a head coach at the college level at all anymore.
Yeah,
right.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could see the Raiders possibly get Chip Kelly be the next OC because, I mean, he was a finalist for the Commander's position, but then
he's not a good coach.
Kingsbury took over.
Moose?
Yeah, I don't think Chip Kelly is a good coach for college. I think I agree with Eric. I think he will eventually go to the NFL.
And I think that's the way a lot of these head coaches are going to go, as far as those who aren't into the NIL game or into the recruiting heavily or the portal. You have people like Kirk Ferentz who are going to age out. He's not going to go to the NFL. He's already been there, done that anyway. But people like Chip Kelly, I think they're going to end up in the NFL. And I don't know, but that was actually something I was wondering about Harbaugh. Is like, how did he feel about the recruiting game? How did he feel about NIL? Was he hesitant to accept it too? Because now he's in the NFL, and that just made me wonder, like, if he's made that transition, is that part of the reason why, besides the fact that he wanted to win a Super Bowl?
Well, Jack, you want to answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
because he's directly addressed this on, it was either Rich Eisen or Colin Cowherd, and he was making the media rounds, and he was asked, why now for the Chargers, and he actually volunteered the information that it wasn't because of NIL, that it wasn't because of the transfer portal, and he said he actually likes what's happening with NIL, and he likes what's happening with the transfer portal, and he's been calling for players to get compensated for years.
Yeah, I knew about that the compensation.
Jim's a big advocate for it. He's a huge advocate for players getting paid.
Didn't he make a statement once that he would pay like players like out of his salary or something? Am I totally off here?
He said something like that.
Yeah.
Did he say something like that? I mean, he's been pretty forthcoming about saying, advocating for the players in those situations.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Well, and I know that Ohio State, where you and JR talked about this earlier tonight, John. Y'all talked a little bit about the OC candidates. Toledo head coach Jason Candle is one of the candidates, and I know Moorhead's another candidate.
Yeah, JR mentioned Moorhead. I think that would be a great choice if Chip Kelly, if BOB does leave and Chip Kelly, won't take the salary that Ohio State.
I mean, if he can't beat him, join him. I mean, Joe Moore has actually kind of owned Ohio State with Penn State and Oregon, so that'd be huge.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. he did put up some good numbers on us in 2017 and then 2021. Obviously, he got. I mean, He's one of the most creative offensive minds out there. I thought he really got the short shrift at Mississippi State those 2 seasons.
Yes.
I have no idea. I mean, maybe it was the whole point they could get Mike Leach. I don't know if that was the entire reason just for getting rid of him, but he was not a failure there, or at least he hadn't been given a chance to fail.
Not at all. So before we move, I have a big picture topic I want to throw at all of you. But before we do that, we do want to remind everybody that if you have a product, a service, a personal brand, a business, you can benefit from sponsorships at the Voice of College Football. So go to markrogerstv@gmail.com and let us know how we could potentially benefit you. So here's what we've heard. Is that the SEC and the Big Ten, this is the hot thing right now, not just with college football, but getting an advisory group together. Somebody got paid a lot of money to come up with that idea. Some consulting firm got paid a lot of money to say, let's do an advisory group. And even Dennis Dodd said, CBS Sports' Dennis Dodd said, by taking this action, the SEC and Big Ten are telling everyone else to step aside. So is this the prelude to the death of NCAA involvement in football? And we're going to go in reverse order this time. So we'll start with Erica.
Yeah. So, for me, I wasn't big into the idea of super conferences. I'm kind of an old school person in this regard. I just think that, the Big Ten, I felt like should have stayed a regional conference. I know I'm behind the times, but I'm unlike Kirk Ferentz. I've accepted that that's over. So yeah, I think that, the death of the NCAA might be coming. I think a lot will depend on the result of that Virginia-Tennessee lawsuit too.
Yes.
I think that's very interesting, and I think that some other states will be joining them as well. I think this is going to become a super big deal, that Tennessee-Virginia court case. And yeah, I can see it coming. I also think that in a weird way, maybe the NCAA needs to die because there's just too many, how can I say this? There's just not enough rules laid out. There's too many things going under the table, going on. And they're not doing much as an advisory board as it is, or, doing their jobs that they're supposed to be doing. So it's kind of like, well, what's the difference anyway if they get dissolved?
Yeah, it's interesting to see what might be coming. But Moose, have you been following this? So they're starting it to form an advisory group, and is this kind of a prelude to something?
Yeah, I think the Big and the SEC is basically putting their foot down and saying we've had enough with the NCAA, and I think that eventually the NCAA will be gone, and I think it's starting now. And I think that it's kind of, well, not for me, but it's kind of sad it'll be sad for the smaller schools that don't make as much money because they're not going to be able to compete with the Ohio States and the Michigans and the Texases of the world because they all have so much money. You're going to be seeing. I think eventually you're going to be seeing the same teams winning national championships that make the most money, and that's unfortunate for the other schools that aren't as rich as the other schools. They're going to be being left out of this, which is kind of sad for the NCAA a little bit because there's not as much parity. There won't be as much parity now. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
I already feel that we had that happening though, that the same teams over and over were winning the Natty. I mean, that's not new.
Yeah, there's about 16 maybe tops that are in a position, unless a miracle happens. You kind of already got your 12 to 16 that are like kind of getting some more of the talent and things like that. But Will ND, obviously you're in a very unique position here as the independent, but obviously this impacts all teams, right? And kind of maybe even, do you think that Notre Dame, if just out of curiosity, if the SEC and the Big Ten become the super conferences, does Notre Dame join the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean that's what'll happen. I mean they're not gonna. Notre Dame's gonna want to compete for national championships, and if they have to do that, that's what they have to do. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like if the ACC hold on, how long it'll drag out. Like the ACC being where they are now.
Yeah, they got those ironclad contracts that Florida State's trying to wriggle out of now.
Yeah.
So who knows? Sean, what's your take on the SEC and Big Ten making this move?
Okay, I could speak for like an hour on all my thoughts about this. I be concise here. I think anybody cheering the eventual dissolution of the NCAA is losing their minds here. I mean, and anybody that thinks that we don't need an effective, efficient governing body, which the NCAA has so inconsistently been. I mean, part of this problem is the NCAA has brought a lot of this on themselves. But to think that we don't need, but to think one, college sports is not just football. Okay, I mean there are tens of thousands of athletes in other sports that that need the funding that the NCAA can provide, need the infrastructure, need the organization. And if we just dissolve this completely and turn this into complete, corporatocracy, you're going to see a lot of programs get cut, a lot of athletes lose scholarships, and no one wants to see that happen.
What has the NCAA done in its history that makes you want them to stay? Is my question.
They provide all the infrastructure, all the guidelines for all of these athletic departments.
They don't do their job though. Look at all the stuff that people are getting away with that they don't investigate.
Okay. Oh yeah. But that's. I mean, they have levied like some serious punishments before. I mean, like they say they've done nothing is inaccurate. They've been inconsistent very much in how they've administered their own rules, their own guidelines, and this is why people have such a sour taste in their mouth. I mean, they're just like Congress. I mean, if we got rid of Congress tomorrow, I think that would probably be a bad thing, right? No one likes Congress. No one likes the government. But if we got rid of it, we would probably be 10, 20 years down the line, be way worse off for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I see what you're saying.
So, yeah. So, I mean, no, I mean, we're actually like just, moving in a direction, I think, and I think the NCAA will eventually crumble. And I think it will be replaced by something even more toothless, even less effective, even more beholden to the interests of the powerful. And I think that's going to be a bad thing. So those are my big broad thoughts. So
rules everything. I mean,
what was that? I'm sorry, Erica. What'd you say?
I said this is what happens when money is such an influence on everything in general.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a shame, and that's part of the reason I didn't like expansion, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to stay regional and as it was, because I had a feeling something like this would explode and happen.
Let's get Jackson to chime in here.
My question is, what does this do for the other sports besides college football?
Right.
And what does this do for the Big 12 and ACC? Because I can't help but I can't help but feel like the Big 12 and ACC are going to get left behind, or two of them are going to get in a dogfight with one another, and one of them's going to try to be that super conference along with the SEC Big 10. My money being on the Big 12, of course.
I think that's a really good point. Like, obviously, we're focused on football here. But yeah, it's true. And, Sean alluded to it as well, that this isn't just about football. This is about all the other sports as well. And, we have to keep that in mind. It affects more than just the football players, even though there's tons of them already. I mean, there's also all the basketball players, wrestling, all of it. So I'm kind of surprised that there's not a lot of, I mean, there might be, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like there's as much talk about it outside the football world.
Well, can I ask you this? Like, is there a world in which there's a college football commissioner and, and college football is governed separately and the other sports are still governed by the NCAA? Because I've been hearing that might be a potential solution. Is that viable, or would that just collapse everything?
I think that's very viable. I think there's a lot of I mean, the specifics would need to be argued, and it still could be like the NCAA sort of just delegates this to a third party, but they, if they don't like what the football commissioner is doing, they can step in and stuff like that. There's lots of potential solutions, but I mean, dissolving the NCAA and just letting Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and Michigan run everything is a bad idea in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know how viable it is that the NCAA just runs all the sports except college football. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting question. I mean, no doubt that might make it a bit easier to manage because that cuts out so many people, like just numbers,
It is interesting, though, like Division FBS. I'm sorry, I was just the FBS college football is the NCAA still doesn't actually award a national champion for that. Like that's not an NCAA recognized championship right now. That's complete. The CFP is completely separate from the NCAA. So there's a little bit of that in operation right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like that money has such a hold on this. And I guess I'm kind of in a unique situation on this panel because although Iowa is not like some nothing school that has zero money, I mean, that's not the case at all. We definitely don't have the money of an Ohio State or a Michigan or a Notre Dame even.
Well, unfortunately, Erica, money has a hold on everything. It is what it is.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think it necessarily had to go this way either.
Well, Erica, Cade McNamara said you guys have figured out your NIL program better than a lot of schools. So
that's true. I mean, we do have the right NIL in place, and we have donors who are consistent, which is part of the reason why Brian Ferentz got fired because they pretty much insisted on it.
Yeah, hallelujah. So cool. Sanity prevailed, I guess, and it just happened to be a lot of people with the money.
That's how life is, right? Money rules the world, and it's going to turn into a mini NFL here, and you're going to have kids making obscene amounts of money, and it's already happening in certain instances,
Yeah, good for Cade. I guess the logical question next really is around, okay, so if we continue with this NIL situation, we've talked about this I think a little bit in the past on here and other places, but like are we headed to a salary cap system like the NFL has, where at the very least, unlike today's NIL, where everything's done in the shadows and with whispers and rumors, if you go semi-pro and you go NFL format and everyone has to publish the salaries and incentives and bonuses, then it becomes a transparent system. Is that something that you see?
I'm all for that because if the argument is,
I don't want it to be like the pro. I mean, I don't want it to be like the pros. I just want the players to get I want NIL to be what NIL was supposed to be.
Wait, what were you going to say, Erica? Thank you. Let's let Erica finish, and then we'll go to Sean.
I was going to say if we end up in a model where they're employees of the school, like everybody, not everyone here, but I mean in general, everybody has been saying, they're what they're making should be published. If they're public employees of a university, should be published. How are they different than professors at that point who are making money?
Absolutely. Sean?
Yeah, well, I mean, like part of it right now is that because they're not paid by the universities, they're paid by collectives. They are not employees of the university, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, but that's where
To point out, like, yeah, but to point out, like, just how like ridiculous some of these things, and the NCAA still has some bylaws under NIL that you are not allowed to provide NIL funds as a recruiting inducement. And you are not allowed to offer these things to them until after they're signed. And literally everyone knows. Kids are telling everyone that that's going on right now everywhere. Like literally every school is offering NIL as inducements. And now you've got the NCAA seemingly randomly coming down on schools for doing what almost everyone knows is just common practice now.
I know about that one.
What's that?
I know about that one a little bit.
Yeah, like this is. I mean, like the end. I mean, this is part of why a lot of people are cheering. You know, the eventual death of the NCAA. It is absurd the state it's in right now, and I mean, and part of the problem is the NCAA had such a tight grip on these player inducements, on these funds for so long. They had such unrealistic rules and guidelines that they were inevitably defeated in court, and they were forced at will to change, and they weren't prepared for any of this. You know, the Supreme Court and the state legislature said you have to change this right now, and they had no opportunity to adjust at all. So they put themselves in this situation.
Well, Erica, I'm old school also like that, and I was telling a buddy of mine just the other day, like I miss where recruiting was when you recruited someone. And they committed. They stuck to their commitment, and they stuck to their values, and didn't want to shop anywhere else. Nowadays, these kids are all about money. It's all about money. There's no loyalty anymore, and that's one of the biggest things I miss about college football is there's no loyalty anymore.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, I don't know about that as a blanket statement. I'm pushed back a little bit, and we can use Michigan and Iowa as two examples of where there still is a semblance of, okay, if you're a team person, then you'd be willing to not be for the individual, but you're for the team. You might have to sit on the bench a year. You might have to do whatever it takes for the team. Cornelius Johnson blocking right for one of the plays. And I think I think everybody's team that's on the panel here has some element of that, but especially Michigan and Iowa, I think, just based on what we've heard, I think there's still some of that.
I think you're right, John, about that to an extent, but I mean, it's happened to Iowa twice now that we've been burned as far as commitments, and unfortunately, they were big impact players who, in the case of Caden Proctor, even though he came back in the end and we ultimately won the battle, I guess you could say, provided he stays, which I think he will.
Yeah.
But, what happened with Bama, though, his first, last year, when he was committed to us for 6 months, and then the day before signing, he decommits. Like, there's so much wrong with that on so many levels because they usually have those anchor players, and Caden was one of those anchor players for Iowa that you build the rest of the offense around. And, when you have something like that happen, it's really inconvenient. It's really frustrating. And then we had another big time recruit. I don't know if he's a 4 or 5 star, Nick Brooks, who went to high school or is going to high school now in Iowa, but he went to Georgia for, a little bit to be developed, and he committed to us and then he decommitted again. So, I mean, we've been burned now twice about it, and both times it's interesting. It's been O-linemen. And, there's a lot to say about that, I guess, given the state of Iowa's offense, but I'm not going to go there because we've overtalked that so many times on this show and elsewhere. But no, I agree with you. I mean, with Iowa, and I can see with Michigan too, that there are some people who are willing to sit on the bench for 2 years or, whatever. if they get to start after that. And you even have people like Lucas Van Ness, who's now with the Packers, who was technically never a starter at Iowa, but he got picked in the first round anyway. So, I mean, yeah, there's still an element of it, but Iowa's starting to see that it is hurtful that, you know, we have a commitment from someone for 6 months and then they decommit. It's sad, and it's a statement on what's going on in football and what's going to continue getting worse and worse. We're going to see more and more of it, and I think it needs to be regulated. And I think that the NCAA is obviously not the body to do it. They need to come up with something else, and they need to, just like Sean was saying, apply the rules equally. Because I'm tired of that too as an Iowa fan. We've gotten slaps on the wrist for things, and other people do the same exact crap, and they get nothing.
Yeah, what do you guys think about it seems with Tennessee, Florida State, and now Florida, the NCAA is investigating. So remember, I've talked a couple of times on the show about the $13 million NIL deal that Jalen Rashada was allegedly offered by the Gator Collective, and then they pulled out of 2 days after the first payment was due. Well, now the NCAA is looking at that, and they're looking at some Florida State stuff, and they're looking at Tennessee.
Yeah.
So it does seem like there's some beginnings of actions on the NIL front. As we know, just the NCAA is usually takes a year or two to to catch up with what's going on. But we are hearing that.
If we're being honest, there's a heck of a lot more than that that's happening. Let's be real here. There's a heck of a lot more than a handful of schools that are doing this. And if they're going to try and catch up with all the schools that are doing it, we're going to, it's going to take 50 years. So, I mean, yeah, it's true. They're starting to slap other people's wrists and investigate stuff, but that's only like just the beginning of everything that's going on. I'm not just talking within one conference, like around the country, this is happening.
You can't compete within the framework of the rules anymore. And that is the major problem right now. The NCAA has not reformed in any way on any sort of time scale that's acceptable. I mean, this is yeah. Go ahead, Moose. Yeah.
Moose.
So I just said what the rules now. It's all about who's got the most money. That's who's gonna be the most successful.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll see who else, if there's anyone else that they're looking at for the NIL violations. But those three, I mean, definitely made headlines, and especially Florida. I mean, that's the one that always comes to mind. Well, them and Texas A&M, in terms of just being almost open about the fact that like they're throwing lots of cash around.
Miami as well.
Miami, yes, of course.
What
yes.
is the deal with Miami? They throw all this money and their team is still just not good. What's the deal?
It takes a lot more than throwing money at spoiled kids to win.
Well, sure.
Michigan's an example of this. Iowa's an example of this. Ohio State and Notre Dame, they're examples of, yeah, hey, you still got to build a program when you're there.
I'm going to go on a limb and don't get upset, some of you guys, but I'm going to say Oregon, Texas A&M, Texas, Ole Miss, Florida, Florida State, even Ohio State. I think they all probably should be investigated for recruiting violations.
I think a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think everybody at some point should be investigated for something. If we're going by the rule book, okay, like Sean said, given that it's impossible to compete unless you're skirting the rules, let's be honest, most schools would probably have something that needs to be investigated, and that's ridiculous.
The rod, everyone tampers. So everybody does it.
Everyone does it. Yep.
To some extent. And we heard about Kalen DeBoer doing it a little bit at Alabama. I heard. Jackson, have you been following?
Yeah, after I found this funny, and Jackson, this is not directed at you, but Bama fans were coming at Caden because of what happened with him, and then we turn around and they're accused of doing the same thing.
Yeah,
like I don't want to hear it. I'm tired of hearing it from that type of thing, like with that type of stuff, because they say don't do it, and then guess what? They're doing it. So it's just the whole thing's a facade. The whole thing's a charade, and it's we're at the point of no return. That's what the
I mean, every time you hear Lane Kiffin complain about anybody doing anything in this, don't
even get me going on
I don't know.
him.
I don't know my eyes could roll any harder than when I'm listening to him criticize Ohio State over their NIL. Oh my God.
Sean, have you seen his Twitter posts?
Yeah.
Oh my God, how obnoxious! He's obnoxious.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy Lane on Twitter because it's
I love it. It's a daily source of just yeah.
Oh man, I wish Daniel Tosh brought back his Tosh.0 show. That way he could do like Lane Kiffin parodies. Because they both
There's
kind of
probably
look
a Lane
alike.
Kiffin parody page on Twitter already. Every coach has one of those run by some fan. There's probably one on there. I'm going to look at my phone right now and see if I can't find it, because I'm sure there is one.
I remember the Bo Pelini Twitter account from years ago, where he had that cat as his avatar on there.
There was a really
Defoe.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to honor the super chat. Defoe really with that W comment right there. Yeah, so keep Texas out of your mouth. Best host, John D.
They do dirty stuff.
Thank you.
When you talk about NIL, Texas, or these violations, Texas is going to be one of the ones that comes up inevitably. That's just what it is. Sorry, Defoe.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing dirty stuff. I guarantee
it. No tamper. Just called Caden to say I love you. Well, how about that?
Well, that's the other thing too, is that there's tampering and then there's impermissible contact. And I know this because I read the rules after everything started coming out because I was curious.
Well, wait,
it was definitely impermissible contact for sure. But whether or not it was tampering, I mean, it depends if they literally said, oh, we're so sad you're doing badly at Bama. You should come to Iowa. If they said that, that is tampering. But if all they said was, oh, we're sorry you're having a tough time, that's not tampering. It's impermissible contact, and both of them are against the rules. It's just a question of how much of a penalty you get.
Yeah. Well, this is a topic we're going to talk a lot about in the off season, I think, and I'm excited to keep that going. But it is time because I need to get a workout in. So I'm gonna put in that work over at the gym over there. Just literally have to walk a couple doors down from the business center. So very exciting. But I do want to give everybody a final thought and where can people find you on the internet. And we're going to start with Jackson since he came on first, and we'll go around. Jackson, final thought for you on the Ocho today, and where can people find you on the internet?
Well, before I go on to where people can find me on the internet, I'm just going to tell you right now, I really wish UCLA nothing but awesomeness, but I just don't see any good coming their way right now. And I feel like things are just going to get much worse right now. And as for the Buckeyes, I think they're they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to get a top-notch OC. I mean, whether they got Bill O'Brien or not, they're going to get a
Moorhead or yeah.
If I were the Buckeyes, I'd prefer to go get Moorhead or Candle. But Candle, if he does become the next OC at the Ohio State, then he's got an easier shot at becoming a Power 5 head coach. So I hope he can become a Power 5 head coach real soon, because I mean it's long overdue. As for where people can find me, they can find me on YouTube at Jackson Johnson 979. They can find me on Twitter at Jackson09960335. And they can also find me on Instagram and Threads at JacksonJohnson543908, where I give my latest updates on some of the Jacksonian episodes, and I give some of my updates on the college basketball recap preview show that Will and D and I do every Friday. It's always exciting. I will say, Will, that Duke North Carolina game, that was a great game.
Yeah, that and the Gonzaga St. Mary's game were both great.
Yeah. And when we do our show, this coming Friday, we'll be discussing as to whether Gonzaga still has a shot, because they lost St. Mary's. But this Saturday, it's like they got a gift from the basketball gods or something, because they got an upcoming game against the Kentucky Wildcats on CBS in February. In February, the day before the Super Bowl. They are blessed by the basketball gods. So I got to say, don't screw it up, Gonzaga. You have a shot. And while you're at it, win out.
There you go. Anything else for us, Jackson?
That's about all. Except that for those that were just tuning in, I'm not very confident in UCLA because I got them below Minnesota and Indiana. Because, I think PJ Fleck and Kurt Signetti have a better future than UCLA. I don't think UCLA is going to be doing all right they're not going to have 8-9 win season. They got more of a shot at drinking a beer with Miss Kitty at the Long Branch Saloon than they do at having a winning season right now.
Wow.
Jackson, you're like 23 years old. How do you come up with these references?
Oh, man. Wait until you hear the other references I got.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jackson breaks out the good ones.
Old soul.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to lip sync the United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama song. I can't quite do it, but I'll get there. John, I think you know the reference I just made.
What, the Let's Go Panama?
No, the United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama song.
Oh. No.
Yep. Oh, man, you don't know Animaniacs? That's an awesome show. It's one of my comedic influences.
Oh, is it Okay. Well, I haven't seen.
Come on. You're at my age range. How do you not know Animaniacs?
I know Animaniacs.
I always love it when Yakko, Wacko, every time they see the nurse, they go, "Hello, nurse." That's like the funny part, but the Dot does the same thing. That's so hilarious.
Hey, Jackson, did you see Hummus Hero's comment?
There it is. Jackson is actually 64.
Jackson is 64. That's not correct.
He just eats his veggies and has good genetics. So that is pretty impressive, Jackson. Hats off to you there.
Oh, thank you, man.
Dude has no wrinkles, man. That's crazy.
Well,
alrighty.
I'll be heading on over, eat some dinner, and y'all have a good night and sleep well. And here's to an awesome show, another exciting episode of Trojans Conquest on USC Football at the Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers, Tim Prangley, and Matt Zimick.
Absolutely.
You forgot one thing.
What's
Stay
that?
warm. It's cold outside. You forgot.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Can't forget that.
I got a lot of lawn sleeves. I got 2 lawn sleeves under this shirt right now.
Yeah, the funny thing is, it's not even that cold. It's like 48 degrees.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
cold.
you don't want to get your nips cold, that's for sure.
All right. Jackson, we will see you next time. Thanks for coming on to the Ocho.
Thank you for having me on, John.
All right. Next up, we've got Sean enjoying, obviously, we had Ohio State week for you there. So I hope you enjoyed that. But final thought, where can people find you?
Yeah. So if any of my fellow Buckeye fans are having trouble dealing with the departure of Bill O'Brien, as their offensive coordinator. I'm reminded of a motivational poster I saw in the 7th grade. It said, don't be sad because it's over. Be happy because it happened. We got like 3 amazing weeks of Bill O'Brien recruiting here. So, that's going. We're going to win team in the country probably in the preseason, and we've got that to hold on to for the next 7 months. So, OH.
There you go. All right, Sean. Thanks for coming on.
Take care.
All right. Next up, we got Will ND in the house.
Well,
where do people find you?
I just hope that we could get this NIL thing sorted out and then it can be used how it's supposed to be used. But I don't know. I'm maybe being too hopeful for that. But yeah, Senior Bowl was fun. Not fun for Sam, but fun to watch the other Irish players. Sam was brutal, man. He was brutal in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe he should just join. Maybe he should just be a grad assistant for the Irish. Maybe just go to being a GA because I don't think NFL is for him. But yeah, I mean, we lost a recruit to you. We lost a recruit to USC, but apparently it's because we wanted other guys.
Dang,
There
Will.
are other guys who wanted more, but I'll do a little more digging into that and talk to the USC guys about it. So it'll be interesting to talk to them before their show.
Hey, Will,
And
were
yeah,
you guys going
it's
after
really
that
hopeful
tight
for
end
this
we just
upcoming
got?
season that.
I asked.
Eric is
I
asking.
think you were going after the tight end we just got yesterday, Thomas Mayer from Iowa.
I know we got James Flanagan. I think he was the tight end for 2025. We already got him. I don't know. Maybe we were going after him too as a second tight end. But I know we already got James, so I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, we're already having a good recruiting class, so hopefully can keep on chugging. And yeah, hopefully the Irish can make the playoffs. Just got to win that first game of College Station, and if we can get out of there with a win, I think we'll have a great season. So yeah, thanks so much, John.
Absolutely, and check out Will ND. I'm putting all the links here, so everybody can go ahead and check out the different Twitter, Instagram threads, YouTube. Check it out.
Yeah, I'm Frisbro Will on Be Real. If anyone else in here has Be Real, you can add me there too. So.
All right. Well, there you have it. All right, Will. Good to see you as always. Before we get to Moose, we do want to acknowledge we got D4 Sports back in the house. And by the way, you're welcome to come on and say hi if you want to, because we miss you, man. So we got just because Texas has more money than your broke school, lol, make that dough. Of course he's got to come in and launch some grenades, right? So thanks D for coming back. All right, let's go to Moose next. Final thought, and where can people find you?
I don't have much for a final thought, but you can find me on Twix and YouTube. That's where I'm mostly. Just looking forward to the next season. I know that's a long ways away, but it's gonna be really weird. I don't know what to do during this time when I'm waiting for college football. So the downtime is the worst. But I will leave you on this, John. To everyone who has their doubts about Michigan next season, do they need to be reminded who just won a national championship?
Well, your picture certainly does that. So you've got it right there. No one can miss it.
Yep, and on that, I just want to say one more thing, John.
Yeah.
Who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
Damn right. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot, Moose. So we do. I do want to bring on our buddy He's back with us, coming by to troll a bit. We got D4 in the house. How you doing?
No, good.
Yeah, I was a wrestler in high school, so we followed we followed Iowa like every week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been in school. That's what I've been doing. It's been taking up all my time. I haven't been able to do any content or anything like that. So, made the dean's list the past
Good for
2
you.
semesters. So,
Wow.
Good for you.
And yeah, I've been trying to get back in slowly now that my classes have sort of lightened up a little bit. So it's good to see John on here hosting, doing his thing, always looking dapper as always.
I try.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good to see you, man. You're always welcome on any of the shows I'm doing or anything else. So feel free to swing by.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hi, everybody out there. We'll see y'all hopefully next time around if I get them a notification. And John, Erica, y'all have a great night.
Yep. Thank you.
Later, Brandon. All right, Erica. So we had a little cameo appearance from D4. I did a show with them last year. We did the Michigan review preview every week on YouTube, and we broke down the film, and so that was always a good time. But anyway, you're last up with final thought, and where can people find you?
Yeah. Well, actually, I kind of just said my final thought in that Iowa is not this poor nothing school. I'm so tired of that rhetoric. And I have no illusions. Like, I'm not saying we're some, rich whatever, I'm not saying that either. But to think Iowa completely has zero money is absolutely flipping ridiculous. And I'm tired of hearing that. So anyway, other than that, my other final thought is I hope that we got the right OC, man, because we've got some good players coming in and some good players coming back. Most of our defense is coming back. Cooper DeJean obviously is going to the draft. He decided not to come back, but most of the other sixth-year seniors on defense did. So we're going to be loaded again on defense. And hopefully Marco is going to be our number one quarterback. I'd love to see that, although I don't know how realistic it is because Cade can't even practice till August.
Jeez.
Yep.
That's tough.
Yep. But anyway, those are my final thoughts. And also, I want to share that PJ Fleck is absolutely a used car salesman. I used to respect him a lot, but man,
I'm pretty sure that. So you saw JR from Big Ten Huddle on here at the beginning, and we did a coaches ranking, and I actually had Kirk Ferentz third in the Big Ten. Oh. And I had PJ Fleck. I believe I had him last, either last or second to last. He was real down there.
Oh man, I'm telling you, there was a show, and I think I might have talked about it on here before, but there's quite a few Hawkeye podcasts that former players do. Like there's a few different ones specifically done by former players, and there's this one where Amir Smith-Marset, I don't know if anyone remembers him. He was a wide receiver who plays in the pros now. He was around when well, let's just say before P-Trash came along, he was around. We'll say it that way. And he was a really good wide receiver for us. And he was talking about how he got recruited to Minnesota. And apparently they put on the pressure during those recruiting visits. And they apparently said to him, this is the offer. You need to commit right here, right now, without saying it. And apparently he, accepted because he was this 17 or 18-year-old kid who had no clue what he was doing. And apparently they were like, okay, great, post on your Insta that you've committed to us. And he refused, and they kept asking him, he refused. And finally, to shut him up, he obliged and put on his Insta that he was committed to Minnesota. And then as soon as he got home, he took that down, decommitted, and committed to Iowa.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know about that story until I listened to that podcast like last week or the week before. I thought that was interesting. And that was kind of the kibosh on when I realized, okay, yeah, he's a used car salesman. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick if those were the two options, Iowa, who regularly goes 10, 11 wins, or Minnesota, who has kind of underperformed, I think, expectations, at least. I understand that Minnesota had some real down periods before PJ Fleck, but I think more was expected of him than what he's put out there, especially with his shtick and his row the boat and everything else. So,
I used to really like it. I like the concept. I think it's a great concept, and it's great that he tries to motivate people, but it's just so phony.
Yeah.
It's just so phony. But anyway, those are my final thoughts, and y'all can find me on Twitter, Eriquita0115, where I've been talking a lot about Iowa women's basketball recently for some reason. I don't know why that might be. It's not
I
like we're
wonder
in the country or something.
Oh,
Humble brag there. Sorry about that, because I go to little
somebody
Iowa,
named Caitlin Clark is kind of. I heard she might be doing pretty well at basketball.
Yeah, she's doing okay. She's doing pretty good. She's only won Big Ten player like 8 times this year or something. Like, I don't know, whatever. Anyway.
Wait, before you go, I heard some rumblings that she might be on the Olympic team.
Yeah, I heard the same
women's
thing.
Basketball.
Nothing's been firmed up yet, but I've heard the same thing. I think that'll especially be true. Like, maybe if she decides to not use her last year of eligibility because she's got a COVID year coming to her, for obvious reasons, we hope that she'll use it. But she doesn't. How can I put it? Like, she's got so many freaking NIL deals, and she doesn't. I was explaining to somebody in the chat before, like, the NIL stuff. She doesn't need Iowa's NIL. She has so many flipping deals on her own. Like, she has a deal with State Farm. She's got a deal with the biggest grocery chain in Iowa, Hy-Vee. She has other ones as well. She doesn't need our collective's money. So she's going to make more money as a college player than she ever will in the WNBA, probably. So we'll see what happens with her. We'll see what happens with her. I hope she comes back, and hopefully we continue winning our games. And it's been really an exciting team to watch. I think our team this year is better than last year's women's basketball team for sure, which is saying something because last year they were pretty stinking good.
They were good, yeah.
So anyway, those are my final thoughts. And feel free to follow me on Twitter if you're interested in Iowa women's basketball or football. Or, I've been talking about politics a lot less recently, but I have been talking about Mr. PJ Fleck, the used car salesman. So if you'd like to see him mocked, please do follow, and I'll follow back.
There you go.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Erica. Always great to see you.
Yep, talk to you later.
All right, everybody. Ooh, what a show. We had a D4 Sports cameo. We had a ton of talk. We had Ohio State talk. We had everything going on tonight. For those of you who supported the show, we really appreciate you. If you hit the like button, if you told a friend, if you subscribed to Voice of College Football, or if you were even on the panel. And we also thank JR from the Big Ten Huddle. Definitely check him out. He was our special guest for Ohio State Week. And I'm going to ask everyone in Discord, so that way if you're a Patreon supporter or you're a YouTube member, you can chime in on which team do you want me to talk about next week, and who do you want me to bring in as a special guest. And we'll take everybody's votes on Discord. So be a YouTube member for $2.99 and up, and Patreon, I believe, is $5. So check those out, and we'll figure out the next week of the show. Dependent Fanatic, thank you so much for always being here and helping, supporting, and Dependent Fanatic has a lot going on as well, and so you definitely want to follow him around the internet. He's got a lot of stuff going on. Couple final reminders. Definitely when you're doing your shopping on Amazon, check out the Amazon link, in any of our videos, so that Mark Rogers can get a couple of bucks and we can continue doing this work that we're doing, bringing on great guests and content and everything else. In addition to that, we do have new merch. So if you haven't checked out our merch store yet, I strongly recommend you do so, because not only do we have tremendous things like gift cards and mugs and things like that. The athletic shorts is going up, the hot ticket items. So people are buying those. The flag, of course, Voice of College Football flag. We've got your phone cases here. Voice of College Football shoes. stuff for the kids, jackets, sports bras, visors, you name it. We probably have it. For that special someone in your life, get them a Valentine's Day gift from Voice of College Football. Socks, yeah, you name it. We got jigsaw puzzles, backpacks, and my favorite is probably the dog bowl. All your furry college football fans out there can enjoy the Voice of College Football dog bowl. So there you have it. That's our merch store. Check it out. Get yourself some merch. And don't forget, obviously, we have our different sponsors from Aura. So you get yourself some Aura in your life. Get a 2-week free trial of Aura, as well as ticketsmarter.com. When you're getting your tickets, get ticketsmarter.com, BIG for $10 off, and BIG 20. So check that out, and we'll try to get you squared away. Let's see, where's Gizmo is not here. I try to do these shows if I can at the business center, unless it's bad weather or some other reason. Try to class it up a little bit, and then I can just hit the gym right after. It's right over there. So let's see. Does Gizmo have a Voice of College Football bowl? I am working on that. I'm working on getting a couple of merch items here, so we'll be working on that. So a couple of other things coming up next. We actually have Trojan Conquest Live. So every Monday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific on the USC channel, Mark Rogers, Tim Prangley, and Matt Zemek. Tim and Matt are both now part of Trojans Wire, USA Today, writing articles and doing press things. So all three of those guys get together for Trojan Conquest Live every Monday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, right after this show. So just head on right over there, hit the like button for them, and let them know John sent you from the Ocho. And they can make a tally, of all the people who come over and support them from the Ocho. So there you have it. We appreciate everybody stopping by, and until next time, as I always like to say, and even I'm going to enjoy it even more because it's Ohio State week. Go Blue, and thank you so much for being here for the Ocho, the Voice of College Football. See you tomorrow night. For those of you who watch Michigan Wolverines live, a solo show tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Got some things to get off my chest, so I'm doing a solo show, and we're going to have fun with that. And we'll see you there tomorrow if you're interested in that. But until next time, go Blue, and we will see you around.